In this podcast, you'll improve your listening skills and widen your vocabulary. We speak about some moral dilemmas and try to justify why it might be okay to eat your dog. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hi, I'm Reza.
And my name's Craig.
And with 50 years of teaching between us, we'll help you improve your English and take it to the next level. So Craig, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling very good, thank you. I'm still doing the summer courses over here in Valencia, Spain. They're all going well. They're online. And although it's very hot, I do know it's winter in the southern hemisphere because one of the students in the group, Javier, hello Javier if you're listening, from Argentina, he comes on Zoom in a woolly hat and a sweater and a jumper. And of course, we forget over here in Europe that in the southern hemisphere, it's really cold and getting into winter. How are you enjoying the summer weather?
Well, yesterday was pretty warm and sticky in Valencia. Sticky, whenever things seem to stick to you like adhesive, like you can't get them off your skin because it's humid. So it wasn't such a pleasant day yesterday, was it?
No, it was very humid, but still, I'm in the air conditioning with Reza. We're recording this podcast. And if you're a new listener, you're very, very welcome. Now, before we get going today and look at some moral dilemmas, just a warning, a mild warning, because we're not swearing in this episode. We're not using really bad words, but the moral dilemmas we're going to speak about could shock people a little. And this episode may not be suitable for young children. So if you're listening in the car, if you've got children in the back, just take note that it might not be suitable for your kids. So the idea for today's podcast came from our good friend Wessel from Brazil, and here is his voice message.
Hello, Reza and Craig. This is Wessel from Brazil. First of all, I'd like to say that in my last vacation in May 23, I visited Valencia for 5 days. What a lovely city. At the moment, I discovered the reason why you guys decided to live there. Anyway, I would like to suggest a philosophical topic to you, moral dilemmas. Beyond the classical dilemmas like the trolley problem, there are some moral dilemmas that make us think how difficult it is to locate a moral or ethical principle being violated in each scenario. For example, a woman is cleaning out her closet and she finds out her old American flag. She doesn't want the flag anymore, so she cuts it up into pieces and uses the rags to clean her bathroom. The second one, a family's dog was killed by a car in front of their house. They had heard that the dog meat was delicious, so they cut up the dog's body and cooked it and ate it for dinner. Such experiments carried out by Professor Jonathan Haidt indicates that there's something more to human morality than just care or harm. In fact, in all of that scenarios, the people did not harm anyone. I'd like to know your opinion about why these actions are wrong and what ethical principle is being violated in each scenario. Thanks for all. Bye.
Thank you, Wessel, for your message. And why didn't you get in touch to say that you were coming to Valencia? If we have time, obviously sometimes Reza and I are working or we're busy or we're traveling and we can't meet up. But if you do come to Valencia, if you're listening and you're visiting the city, please let us know. Send us an email and we'd be happy to meet you for coffee if we can. Any comments, Reza?
Yes, Wessel, I thought your message was very, very clear. Well done. On the whole, you had really, really good pronunciation and your grammar and vocabulary was very accurate. I would just mention two tiny aspects of pronunciation. The word cooked, I think you were using the past. You spoke about the family who cooked their dog, but you said the family cook their dog. You didn't pronounce the extra t sound to make it past simple. They cooked their dog. It's difficult to say, isn't it? But we've got to add an extra t. And one other thing, you're talking about ethical decisions. Ethical. You were pronouncing it like a t, but in fact, it's a th. I imagine that's because, correct me if I'm wrong, Bessel, in Portuguese language, Brazilian, there is no th sound. So the Spanish can do th. Most of the Spanish from Spain anyway, maybe not from South America because they also don't have th. But in Spain, they've got th, like Zaragoza. So they can do ethical, no problem. But you said it, but it's ethical.
We loved your idea, Vessel, so we're going to look at moral dilemmas in this podcast. Now, what is morality? Morality is the noun, and it's defined as the principles concerning the distinction between right and wrong or good and bad behavior. So identifying and knowing the difference between what's right and wrong. A dilemma is it's a difficult situation in which you have to choose between two or more alternatives. So we're going to look at some hypothetical situations today. What's the first one we've got, Reza?
I think in Vessel's message, the first problem he mentioned was the trolley problem, but he didn't go into details. And perhaps, like me, you weren't 100% familiar with this problem. I'd vaguely heard of it, but let's explain it clearly. So first of all, what is a trolley? For you, what's a trolley, Craig?
For me, as a British English speaker, a trolley is a big basket on wheels that you use at the supermarket. So you push a trolley around when you're doing your shopping. But in American English, you can use it as a word to describe a small train, and it's on train tracks. And in our first dilemma today, the trolley problem, we're speaking about a train carriage. Okay, so a big, heavy carriage on tracks that's going down a hill very, very fast. So what happens to this trolley, Reza, this big train carriage that's going fast down a hill and it's out of control?
Okay, so here comes the dilemma. Imagine you are next to a lever, or some people would say lever, L-E-V-E-R, a big stick that you can move, which adjusts something that has some mechanical action.
In this case, it's like a switch, isn't it?
Like a switch,
to
exactly.
Change something.
So it's a big stick, which is a switch to change from one thing to another. So you're right next to one of these levers or levers. And if you don't do anything, the trolley, the train, goes to the left. And as a result, it kills 5 people. But if you push the lever the other way, it goes right. And that way, it only kills 1 person. So you push the lever to the right, and it kills 1 person, as you knew it would. So here's the question. Have you done something wrong? Have you done evil to bring about good? Because you pushed that lever or lever. You made the train change direction. And as a result, a person died. What do you think, Craig?
Well, I'm thinking of a couple of things. I'm thinking of the fact that you actually take action, and as a result of your action, you kill someone. But then also, if you are able to take action to stop something and you don't, that's also wrong. So if you can see the train going to the 5 people, you know they're going to die, and you do nothing, that's also wrong, right? Because you could affect the result. So inaction or not taking action, I think, is also morally wrong.
Yeah.
What's your opinion?
Yeah. I think it was right for him to do something. I have to go back to the classic. I'm sorry, it's such a cliche. People are tired of hearing it over the decades, but the classic. So we all know what happened in history. You're back in time. Do you kill Hitler before the Second World War starts or not? It's a classic. Do you? Before he actually does anything? So you'd be killing him when he hadn't done anything, but you know what he's going to do. Do you kill him? Do you kill him?
Well, that comes down to another question is, am I able to kill another human being? And that reminds me of a recent Black Mirror episode. I don't know if you're a fan of the Black Mirror series on Netflix.
A huge fan.
Well, you may have seen this. And I was reminded of this yesterday in the conversation course with my friend Fernando, who also saw this episode. Would you kill 3 people to save the world? Have you seen that episode? I don't want to speak about it anymore for people who haven't seen it. I don't want to spoil it. So no spoilers, but did you see that episode?
I haven't seen that episode. Wow, sounds good.
So I won't say any more, but it's a similar question. Are you able to physically kill another person for a result that benefits mankind or humankind? I don't know if I could. And if I could, it would have to be sort of at a distance with a gun or something. I don't think I could physically kill somebody up close with a knife or something similar. It would have to be at a distance.
Would the type of person you're going to kill come into play? Would that affect you in any way? If they were a very unpleasant person, would you find it easier?
I don't know. I mean, in theory, I suppose yes, but it's the actual act of taking another life that I can't imagine myself doing, regardless of if the person deserves it or not, because who am I to judge? It's a difficult question.
Mm-hmm. I'm taking it then as a given that you're against the death penalty.
Well, again, it's not me killing the person, so it's easy to say I'm in favor of the death penalty if somebody else is killing the criminal. So it's that distance thing, isn't it? You're putting distance between you and the crime. Here's another dilemma for you. Imagine you're a surgeon, Reza, and you have the possibility to remove 5 organs from a patient's body. So the heart, the liver, etc. 5 organs. And with those 5 organs, you can save 5 lives. But at the same time, you kill the patient you're operating on. Would you do that?
Oh, well, that depends on lots of things. I would need to know if the patient whose organs I'm going to take was going to die anyway.
Let's say he wasn't or she wasn't.
Then no, I wouldn't. In that case, I wouldn't.
Because of the Hippocratic Oath?
Yes. Yeah. You can't call yourself, I think, a true doctor and willingly cause harm to a patient.
Even though you can save 5?
Yes, but the other patient wasn't going to die. If that other patient was going to die, I would have no problem with it. But not send them to an early death by taking out their organs when they could or might have survived. I think I wouldn't. What about you?
I mean, obviously, if I'm a doctor or a surgeon, then I have taken the Hippocratic Oath, so I would not morally be able to do it. So probably, no, I agree with you. Let's move to number 2. Number 2 is a different situation, another moral dilemma. A woman is cleaning out her closet, her wardrobe, and she finds in the closet an old flag. Now, it could be a British flag, it could be a Spanish flag, an Argentinian flag, an American flag, whatever flag of your country. And she doesn't want this flag anymore. So she cuts it up. Be careful of the pronunciation of that word cut. I heard Vessel mispronounce it a little bit. Cut. The sound is like up. Cut. She cuts it up into small pieces and uses the rags, uses the pieces of the flag to clean her bathroom and her toilet. Is that morally wrong?
Absolutely not, in my opinion.
Why
I don't
not?
have to think even for a split second about it.
Why? It's the national flag.
Yeah.
Doesn't it deserve respect?
So how many Americans have the American flag on their motorbikes on a patch on the bottom of their jeans, the bottom of where the bottom is of their jeans, where you break wind? Yeah. Is that bad? People do it. Nobody thinks anything of it. A bit of, or the complete American flag on your bottom, on your jeans. How can that be okay? But, oh no, you can't use it for cleaning your house. What's the difference?
So then is your view one of it? Well, it doesn't have any nationalistic value. It's just a piece of cloth.
It does have nationalistic value when it's the entire flag being used as a flag. But once its use is over, like everything in life, why not recycle it? It can be recycled, it can be reused. I use old underwear as cloths. I do wash them first. Uh, why not? Why not use a flag?
I do agree with you. I think obviously it's against the idea of having respect for your country's flag, but then I'm not really a big supporter of nationalism. I think it causes a lot of problems. So the fact that you could cut up the flag and use it. I mean, if there was something else, if I could use my underpants, my underwear or something to clean the bathroom, that is obviously better. But I don't see any moral problem with that. And we'd be interested to know what you think of this and the previous dilemma and the future ones we're going to discuss. Let us know. Send us an email because you may not agree with what Reza and I think.
Can I just add a bit more to that? By the way, I know that it is a criminal act in the United States to deface an American flag.
It is.
You can't do it in theory by law. You can be arrested. I'm not sure if you get fined or go to prison, but there is some kind of penalty to pay. It's not like that in all countries. In the United Kingdom, there's no such law. So people don't tend to deface. That means cause damage to flags. But it's not illegal in Britain. But in America, it is illegal. And if you did it in public, you'd definitely be arrested, I'm sure. They wouldn't tolerate it.
For that reason, you often see on the TV news people in countries like Iran and previously in Iraq and sometimes Syria, those places burning the American flag in front of the camera because they know it's a big insult to Americans.
Where I come from, flags are incredibly symbolic and important. I don't mean the United Kingdom, but I mean very specifically Northern Ireland. Only that part of the United Kingdom or Ireland. That's a different story. It doesn't really matter in England. If you put up an English or British flag anywhere, nobody's going to complain, I don't think. But in Belfast, be very, very careful in Belfast what you do with flags. If you ever visit my home city, you will see that there are many flags all over the place, but you just can't put up a British flag anywhere you want or an Irish flag anywhere you want. You can only safely put them up in certain areas. I would not go to a nationalist pro-Irish part of Belfast in broad daylight with a British flag, even in my hand. Never mind put it up on a lamppost. My life would be in serious danger and I wouldn't do it. So I advise you listeners to take my advice and don't play around with flags if you ever go to Belfast.
So bear that in mind if you visit Belfast. Be careful with your flags. The next dilemma involves an animal, the family's dog. And just imagine a situation in which a family's dog was killed by a car in front of their house. And this family, they had heard that dog meat was delicious, really tasty. So what do? They cook and eat the dog. Reza, morally right?
I find that very distasteful because I'm a dog lover. I do like dogs.
But the dog's dead.
Yeah. I think in this case, just to eat it willy-nilly, that means just because
just
the
willy.
Feel like it. I thought there'd be no swearing in this episode, Craig. No rude words.
A new meaning to the word hot dog.
Do you know what? I would probably eat a dog if I had no choice because I was going to die otherwise. And you know what? We don't like to think about it, but I bet all of us would consider eating a bit of a person if you had no choice. There are stories of old of sailors being shipwrecked, a couple of 100 years ago, and a group of them being stuck on a desert island, and there's no one ever going to help them. There's no source of food. Particularly if one of them dies, do they eat them? There's stories of such things. Would you be prepared to eat a person if your life depended on it because you were going to die of hunger?
I'm sure I would if I was that hungry. But that's not the dilemma because they're not starving, this family. They just think that it's tasty, that it's nice. Now, Is there a difference between it being your dog and just a dog that you had no sentimental connection with?
No, I absolutely would not eat any dog ever, except if my life depended on it. In the same way as I would never consider eating a person or part of a person, unless my life depended on it, which is very unlikely. Then I might. But for me, it's the same with dogs, because for me, dogs have soul, they have personality. I'm very fond of dogs. And
yeah, me too.
so I know that in some countries they do eat dogs, but it wouldn't be for me. No, I have to say.
Moving on, the next dilemma is a family dilemma. A brother and sister like to kiss each other on the mouth when nobody is around. And they find a secret hiding place and they kiss each other on the mouth. Now that feels wrong on so many levels. You shouldn't be attracted to your brother or sister, although I have heard people call their brothers and sisters attractive. So maybe there is some attraction there. It just feels so wrong. What do you think?
Oh, but hold on, you're many steps ahead of me here. I've been left behind. Who said anything about finding your brother or sister attractive just because you kissed them on the mouth? Just because you kiss them on the mouth, that doesn't mean you find them attractive. I think the odd occasion my mum gives me a kiss, it tends to be on the mouth. Because she's not very used to the whole Mediterranean kissing thing. She's never really figured out that it's supposed to be on the cheek. But it's not a question of attraction. It's just that's the way.
Well, it does say here that they like kissing each other and they find a secret place to do it. I'm guessing they enjoy it.
Okay. So for me, kissing someone on the mouth doesn't necessarily mean there's an attraction. But if they like it, well, that's different. And they find a secret place to do it.
But is it wrong?
It's weird.
It is. But is it wrong?
It's not right.
But is it wrong?
Put it like this: it's not right, is it? It just ain't right.
But why though? Justify it.
It's not. I was going to say normal. Let's put it in. It's not normal to want to go around kissing your brother or sister or mom or dad in a.
It might not be normal,
way
but is it
causes
wrong?
Pleasure.
But is it wrong?
Is it wrong? I think it probably means you've got some kind of psychological underlying problems, don't you think? Because I just think we're not
supposed to
have amorous, romantic feelings or feelings of physical attraction towards our direct relatives, our brothers, sisters, parents, sons, daughters.
Yeah, we can use the word siblings, which would cover brother and sister. Your sibling is your brother or your sister. Yeah, that's true. We're not supposed to feel attraction.
Having said that, I mean, there are famous cases in history where brothers and sisters we even got married. I mean, kings and queens, particularly many centuries ago, often ended up marrying cousins. That was normal. But even the odd brother and sister got together because they didn't want to mix with common people. So the only other person good enough for them, so to speak, was a brother or sister. There are stories of it happening.
Although we're not talking about physical intercourse and sex here, we're talking just about kissing. Yeah. I think it's important to make that distinction.
Yeah. I find it a bit odd. I mean, if it's just kissing, then it's odd. But I guess if both people involved like it, why not? But I would find it odd. I must admit, I would probably be slightly suspicious of such a person who did it, be they male or female, someone who found great pleasure in kissing their brother and sister on the lip and went to a special place to do it. I would find them odd, would you not?
Yeah, also I would probably be focusing more on their age as well. I mean, if they're very, very young, for some reason that doesn't seem so bad. But I think once they become teenagers, then that becomes something to perhaps be concerned about. Interesting question. What do you think? Let us know. Send us an email on your thoughts. We've got one more, Reza. Do you want to read it? It's possibly the most controversial.
A man goes to the supermarket once a week and buys a dead chicken.
Not a live chicken.
Yeah. That goes without saying if it's a supermarket. Although I guess there are a few places in the world, a few markets where you can buy live animals, but not supermarkets, right? So obviously it's chicken meat. It's a dead chicken, but it's the whole chicken, yeah? But before cooking the chicken, now please don't shoot the messenger, yeah? Before cooking the chicken, he has sexual intercourse with it. Yes, you heard right. Sexual intercourse. Then he thoroughly cooks it and eats it. What do you think about that? Are these things wrong? What law or moral principle is being violated? Why is that wrong? Or is it wrong? What do you think, Craig?
Again, like the previous one, it feels so wrong to do that, but it's not against the law. The chicken's dead anyway. I mean, I can't think of a reason where I would think the person doing that would be very, very strange, weird, perhaps even perverted. Although legally, it's not wrong. But morally, it feels wrong.
I wouldn't bother about the word perhaps. They are perverted. There's no perhaps about it. Sexual intercourse with a chicken, dead or alive, doesn't really make any difference. Dead, is it worse than alive? I don't know.
Well, of course it is, because if the animal's dead, it doesn't feel anything.
Yeah, but if it's alive, still, for people to be having sexual intercourse with live chickens is still pretty darn mucked up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mucked up. It's crazy. But what do you think? Let us know. Craig, is that wrong?
You did say that he thoroughly cooked the chicken, so any salmonella was killed. He followed proper hygiene procedures.
Yes.
Does that make it any better, in your opinion? Thoroughly, because they do say it's dangerous if you don't cook chicken thoroughly enough, if you undercook it. So as long as it was thoroughly cooked, perhaps you might let him off.
Yes, said chicken was thoroughly, completely cooked. Now, this feeling that we've experienced, speaking about these 5 situations and what you may have felt, this strong sense of wrongness or the strong sense of it not being correct morally, but you can't really say why, that's got a name. It's moral dumbfounding. If you're dumbfounded, then you don't have a clue. You're really puzzled. You're not sure what's happening. So moral dumbfounding is the feeling that I certainly felt thinking about these 5 situations.
For me, some of them were pretty clear. Do you mean by moral dumbfounding that there was some kind of doubt in my head or ambiguity?
Yes, because you felt it to be wrong, but you weren't sure why. Now, maybe with the flag, I think we agreed that with that one, because we're not very nationalistic people, with a lot of respect for a national flag, we didn't feel morally dumbfounded. But certainly with 2 or 3 of the others, I was, that feels so wrong, that sounds so wrong, but I don't know why, I can't explain it. And I think you felt that with number 4, with the brother and the sister.
Yeah. With number 5, I'm pretty clear. It's absolutely not acceptable.
Yeah, but why though? Did you say why?
Because
it's perverted?
It's perverted. Human beings are not designed by nature to be having sex with chickens, dead or alive. Yeah, and no animal is designed to be having sex with any other animal dead, even of its same kind, never mind a different species. So for me, number 5 is a no-brainer. You don't have to think about it. It's clearly wrong. But the others, I'll grant you, have some moral dumbfounding, some ambiguity about them. Yeah.
So that raises the question then that we're throwing out to you, and I don't know if you have an answer to this. Is there more to human morality than just care and harm? You care for people, you harm people, care for animals, harm animals. Is there more to morality than that?
And another question I would like to ask. The big picture, that's an expression which means the basic, the essence, the basic principle, the main thing. Is the big picture more important than the small details? For example, winning a war that you didn't start. Like, imagine you're the Royal Air Force in the 1940s and you're in the Second World War. You didn't start it. The Germans started it as far as you're concerned. But hey, you've discovered that your air power is supremely better than the Germans. So what do? You spend 24 hours a day absolutely flattening the whole of Germany, and bad luck to anybody below you. That's what the British and Americans and quite a few other people did in the Second World War. Is it because the big picture, winning the war, was the important thing? Yeah, there's lots of babies underneath those bombs, innocent people who despise Hitler and never liked him. They would prefer you to win. They're going to die. You know that. But is the big picture more important? What do you reckon, Craig?
Oh, I think it depends. I mean, there's some things that definitely feel morally wrong. That reminds me of the end of the Game of Thrones, when the Queen of Dragons completely destroyed the city when it wasn't necessary, just because she could. I mean, that was definitely wrong on all levels. So it depends, I think, on the situation.
Mm-hmm. And Craig, what is okay and what isn't okay? So we're talking about ethics to decide this is okay, that isn't okay. In some places, they actually teach ethics like mathematics or physics or biology. Do you think it should be taught at schools?
Yes, I do. I think it's important for kids to know right from wrong. And you could use examples from Greek philosophy to teach that. And I think it's an important thing to know. What do you think?
Yep, I think it would be a good idea as well. Although it would have to be taught with great neutrality. Yeah, trying not to influence people into thinking that only certain ideologies are right and others are wrong. But yeah, I think it would be a good idea.
So where do you think these human morals or ethics come from? Where do we get them from?
Common sense, in my opinion. I've never had any doubt about it. For me, to be ethical is common sense. It's logical. There's nothing silly about it. Annoy someone, do something which you shouldn't have done to them, and without any doubt, they will have no pity for you if the time comes for them to be able to do that to you. So for me, it just comes from plain common sense. Do things the right way. If you don't give anybody a reason for disliking what you've done, then there's no reason for them to do anything bad to you. Now, some people don't follow the rules. Some people will do something bad to you, even though you've never done anything bad to them. But I think on the whole, it kind of, as best as possible, looks after itself. Be nice to everybody. Don't do things you shouldn't do. And hopefully you get paid back in kind. Don't you think?
I think you're right up to a point. I think common sense has a lot to do with it, but I think it's a lot more complicated than that. I think you also get moral values and ethics from your family. I think you get them from the culture and society you were brought up in, because we know some countries have different moral values to others, and we tend to copy what's around us. And also from religion. And some religions have a particular way of living, and some religions have another way of living, and that's a code for living. And religious life is often interpreted as a moral code. And if you are of a different religion, or you're a-religious, you don't have a religion, then you look at things differently. So I think it's all of those together, plus common sense, of course.
Yeah. You've mentioned different religions in different parts of the world and different ways of life. So here's an awkward question. Some countries or some areas of the world are pretty famous for corruption. You could argue corruption is a form of immorality. It's not doing the right thing in politics. For example, Pakistan, Indonesia, sorry to name them as examples, but they always rank in like the top 5 of most corrupt countries in the world, as decided by the United Nations, by the way, not by me. But nobody thinks Sweden is particularly corrupt, although there is corruption everywhere, and that includes Sweden. So corruption being morally bad in politics. Why does it seem to happen more in some countries than others? Why is it? What's the explanation for that?
It may have something to do with the justice system in particular countries, that they tend to hold people to account for breaking the law and being corrupt. Although having said that, I think there's a lot of corruption in, let's say, Western countries that isn't visible. I think in some countries, the media, the press cover it up. It doesn't come to light. Some countries are very clever at hiding their corruption. So it is there. It's just under different layers of politics.
Mm-hmm. You bring me to another issue then. Some countries are good at covering their corruption, their lack of moral responsibility in politics. Would you call those countries then self-righteous? Or a person can be self-righteous, a person who says, I do the right thing, I'm a good person. You aren't. You're not as good as me, but I'm a really good person. Why don't you do what I do? I'm a great person. Look, I follow the rules. I have such great ethics. Aren't I great? Self-righteous person. And some countries come across as self-righteous. I'm going to put my neck out there. I'm not the only one that often criticizes the United States as being self-righteous. Country which has many things going for it, a country I admire very much. I love many Americans. I got lots of American friends, but for many people, often they come across as self-righteous. Oh, we always do the right things. Ethics are fantastic in America. Yeah, I don't know. Are they any morally superior than the Swedes? I'm not so sure. They are pretty good, but I get a bit tired of hearing how ethically great they are from them themselves. Do self-righteous people annoy you?
Yes, and I agree with you as far as the US is concerned. The fact that they think that that way of living and their philosophy should be imposed on the rest of the world, that's very egotistical. But yeah, there are other institutions. The church comes to mind. The church preaching morals and ethics. And we know that there have been stories in the past of crimes committed within the church, sexual crimes that have come to light, that have been made public. And at the moment, we're recording this in July 2023, the BBC, a very respected media organisation, another story has been exposed of possible sexual exploitation of young people. So, yeah, it's pretty much everywhere, unfortunately. Now, Wessel's message was based on a book by Jonathan Haidt called The Righteous Mind, in which he suggests 6 foundations to human morality. So if you'd like to investigate this topic further, in the show notes over at inglespodcast.com/475, you'll see a list of Jonathan Haidt's 6 foundations to human morality. He speaks about care and harm that we've mentioned, fairness and cheating, loyalty and betrayal, authority and subversion, sanctity and degradation, and liberty and oppression. You may not know the meaning of some of those words, but you can go over to the show notes and check the explanations. And I've also put links to moral dumbfounding for more research on that if you're interested, and a link to Jonathan Haidt's book, The Righteous Mind.
Now, it's your turn to practice your English. So, what's your opinion about the moral dilemmas we've mentioned, or maybe some others that you can think of? What do you feel? Why not let us know and practice your English? Send us a message, record your voice, and send it to us through speakpipe.com/Inglespodcast. You can see a link to that in the show notes. But Craig, what if someone's a bit shy and they don't want to record their voice? What can they do?
We prefer a voice message because that way you're practicing your speaking. But if you want to send an email, send one to me, Craig, Craig, at inglespodcast.com. And also write to me if you're interested in the conversation course that I'm running online. And to reach Reza, you can write to him at belfastreza BelfastReza, belfastreza@gmail.com.
This podcast is sponsored in part by mansioningles.com. Why not visit their online store and check out the wide range of interesting products they have to help you improve your English? Have a look at the show notes at the link to store, that's S-T-O-R-E, store.mansioningles.net.
And before we say goodbye this week, we want to say a huge thank you to all of you who are helping us by supporting this podcast on Patreon. And you too can join our Patreon program for a minimum of $1.50 per month. And apart from the good feeling that you're helping us to produce these podcasts, you also get instant access to transcriptions of the show, so you can read everything that Reza and I say. For more information, go to Patreon, patreon.com/Inglespodcast.
So we haven't got time to mention all our sponsors, but we will, as ever, mention our latest Patreon supporters who've just joined this month. They are Ángel Albaladejo Perez, Thanawat Saktanakal Por, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Carlos Esquerdo, and Luisa del Valle Arias, who has increased her support. Thanks very much.
Yes, thank you to you and to all our wonderful Patreon supporters. Now, if you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends so that more people can listen. And in next week's podcast, Reza will not be joining us, but we're going to speak to Bree from Into the Story, and she's going to give you some advice and tips on how to create habits and reach your goals, especially if you are studying by yourself or if you're taking a summer break from your studies. So until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.